Hey everybody, Nick Olson, Chupacabra Offroad. The Can-Am's gotten a few upgrades. Let's talk about it. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Wanted to keep you guys in touch with all the upgrades we've been making on the Can-Am as we make it. It's kind of different than what we've done in the past where we've built it all up, looks cool and pretty all done. I've wanted to kind of try things, a couple items at a time, see how they feel, slowly upgrade, and be a little bit more methodical. It's funny on the internet, everyone talks about a build, and it's kind of funny when you bolt on a bunch of aftermarket stuff and call it a build. I'm not going to argue with what you and I all think a build is, but we're going to incorporate more of our own flavor. To begin with, obviously our Chupacabra products are all designed and engineered as they got added to our build. With the B2G, we've designed that. Of course, it's a fresh idea in the marketplace, a bolt-on rear storage setup. So, it gives it a little bit more than just slapping stuff on and calling it a day. As we evolve as a company, as I evolve as a product person, that's the goal right here, and kind of use this X3 to go through that. So a couple other reasons why we haven't put a cage on it and got all, fancy from the get-go as well is testing the B2G setup. We want to make sure that this works for stock and aftermarket cages, and we've learned a lot by running the stock cage. Basically, when you take the stock bed apart, the stock cage here becomes really wobbly, so we're gonna have to make sure we have a support system like we kind of have set up now, so that all of you guys that do want to pick up our B2G storage system have the support of the stock cage, know it's not going to flop around, know that you can put a whip flag on the back like we did, those type of things. So it's good to test. We have some other products we're testing that are designed specifically for this cage, like our 11-inch center mirror. Now, we just launched this 11-inch Super Deluxe mirror recently at the Sand Show, and we know that the stock mirror that comes with the X3 leaves a lot to be desired. It's hard to see out of these things to begin with. So we designed a proprietary mount that would work and allow all of you guys to go ahead and use that. So we've been testing that. Another reason why we didn't want to get rid of the stock cage right out of the way. And then, make it for better as we make sure these products are 100% ready before we go to market with them. So speaking of B2G, really happy with the performance of it. We are testing some more items here, and this is Gen 2. You guys are going to see some pretty decent changes for Gen 3. We're going to change a little bit of the structure. It's held up really well to having the full-size spare tire, used in a couple different environments. Really enjoying this wheel and tire set, which I'll talk about in a minute, but the B2G has not had any vibration, any tinny noise. We have some improvements basically to how we're gonna mount the taillights. We don't want any of this moving around. It works, but it's not as good as it should be. So, it's good that we take our time. A lot of you guys are hitting us up. Hey, when is it gonna be ready? I'm gonna give you the Robbie Gordon. It's gonna be ready when it's done. But we have a couple improvements we can make. So beyond that, we have our plastic mold box, which this isn't it, but you're gonna see that soon. Slight iterations. We're really happy with the overall size of the setup, which enabled us to go ahead and get that box ready. So size is there, the toughness of it is there, the usability of it is there. So much of it is close, and we just have a couple ideas as we ferment on it, as I think about how it worked in each trip. This type of stuff keeps me up at night of how we can make it a little bit better, how we can go to market with it, maybe make it easier to ship, lighter weight, maybe find an exhaust that might be a little bit quieter, those type of things. So speaking of exhaust, let's move over here to this side of the car and we'll talk about the exhausts. So we have a couple of these B2Gs running around. The first one has been tested with a small exhaust company out of Florida called KFAB. It's a nice exhaust. I've been using this one, which is by a local company called Ironclad. Ironclad makes some very nice X3 components. I like the welds, I like the fit and finish. The only thing that's a challenge is, as cool as this exhaust sounds, it's a little loud when you're just doing casual rides. And what I've come to research is a lot of these side exhausts unfortunately fall prey to that because there's just a lack of space to make a bigger muffler. So we're working with Ironclad, we're talking to other brands, we're trying to make sure we can come up with a solution to keep it a little bit more quiet for those of you that are like me, that although you like the loud noise when you're out in the dunes, you might want something that's a little bit more quiet if you're doing all day rides, you're doing Baja trips, things of that nature. You don't want to be the loud guy with the loud exhaust. I get it. But performance-wise, this thing does really sound cool when you're out in the dunes ripping around. It's very lightweight. I think it's only 14 pounds. So you're losing a lot of weight off the back of the car. And once you get into the Gen 3 B2G, we're gonna weigh all the items back to back. I think there's a very good chance we're gonna be lighter than stock with the B2G setup. So in terms of you wanting to upgrade, you're not gonna have to worry about different spring rates, even different suspension settings until you add on other things such as a full-size spare tire. Speaking of full-size spare tire, recently upgraded to the tire I've been running quite a bit over the last couple of years, which is the Tensor DS33. And these are the new method. They're a non-bead lock. They do have the bead grip technology. They are a 407, and these have slightly more offset than stock, but they're not much wider than stock. And this tire and wheel combo is lighter than the stock combo that I had. So I noticed the braking performance was just as good, if not better. And also, you know, it's really noticeable. These 33s over 32, that extra ground clearance. I ran these in Sand Hollow. I really enjoy this setup. With this wheel and tire combo, it was awesome. This car really was fun to ride in Sand Hollow. The only thing I don't like is that when I did upgrade to the new wheel and tire combo, we have a little bit more steering wheel feedback, particularly when I was raising the car up and it was getting at full droop. And we definitely made some upgrades to the front end. We'll talk about in just a second to get through with that, but that was just kind of an unfortunate side effect of going with the bigger wheel setup with a slightly different wheel offset than stock. So before we talk about the upgrades on the front of the vehicle, one thing I want to talk about, stock suspension. We're still stock. I'm very impressed with this thing out of the box. I've heard, you know, Can-Am's continually evolve some of their valving specs, maybe even spring rates. I haven't driven a 21 back-to-back with a 20, you know, 22 and so on, but very happy. Talked to my suspension tuner, which we will be upgrading. We will be respringing and revalving this thing, but he gave me some baseline settings for ride height. Now, ride height on the rear for a 32-inch tire, he suggested 16 inches. I'm a little bit more than that because I have the 33. So I'm about 16 and a quarter in the rear and 16 and 3/4 in the front. So like usual, like my Polaris, I'm about a 1/2 inch higher in the front. And since I've come back from the dunes, I backed off the high-speed compression. I've raised up the crossover rings. I've been playing with the high and low speed compression, but I am very happy with that ride height. With the 33s, I haven't had any bottoming out at all in Sand Hollow. And with the extra weight on the back with the spare tire at those ride heights, this car handles very well. I'm impressed, to say the least. So now I think what we'll do in the next phase is we'll do just a spring kit and then see how that compares, and then we'll get them valves so we'll kind of have a better idea so we can share with you guys, because you know, a lot of these videos, a lot of people you see, they just pimp their car out and they say spend the money, but they don't necessarily even know what they're talking about. But it's going to be fun to have driven this thing stock, you know, in a couple different environments, see how it feels, then add the springs and then see how it feels, and can hopefully relay to you guys better what you're getting for your money if you do a spring kit and or do the whole spring and valves. Because this vehicle, I've been told, you know, just with springs, you get really close to where you'd want to be. So it's gonna be nice to experience that. So I think that'll be better for me learning, feeling the car, and be able to give you guys good advice. If I think it's worth the money to do the whole thing, we'll kind of do it in steps. I think it'll be fun. So moving on to the front of the car, I mentioned earlier about the new problem that I have with the wheels and tires is the head shake or the steering wheel feedback. So I knew this before I bought the Can-Am. One of the things I was going to have to do was beef up the front end and then also go with a new tie rod kit with updated geometry to prevent that issue from happening. So we just got all this stuff bolted up. I don't have a lot of good feedback, no pun intended, of how it feels, but I decided to go with a company that everybody knows and loves, CT Raceworks. These guys build some of the top performing Can-Ams in the game, from the vehicles that win the King of the Hammers. These guys have been very well invested in X3 since it's begun, and there's so many companies, it was hard to choose which one to go with. But you know, CT, those guys hooked us up, you know, with some decent pricing on these parts, and I love the fit and finish. It came together pretty easy. And also, because I have the X3 edition with the XRC with the winch, I didn't want to lose the winch, of course. So they had a kit ready to go, bolted all up, and I went ahead and went with the shock tower, the full double shear kit, along with the front bulkhead kit and their tie rod kit. So all this, all my problems, all my worries should be gone now. You know, I've got the whole setup. You guys have seen a lot of these Can-Ams, front ends come apart when you hit stuff hard. Now I've got a well-known company, proper geometry, you know, great fit and finish. Everything's a true double shear, as it should have been from the factory. And now all I might have to worry about would be the knuckles. So hopefully we're good for a while. We kept the light on it in its stock position. As I move forward to a roll cage, I don't think I'm gonna be doing an upper light bar like I've done in the past. I kind of want to switch it up. I did run this setup out in Glamis with, of course, our Chupacabra Quail race mirrors with the Squadron Pros. and then the Onyx 10-inch. So I led rides all weekend, night rides every single night in Glamis. With this setup, it was pretty good. I might add a little bit more. Initially, I was thinking maybe a bumper setup, or maybe I'll do the stock headlight replacement just so I can kind of see how it is. But I want to keep all my lights low this time and try that out. You guys know I'm a big fan of amber, so I'll have to at least get some amber dust covers or some type of amber setup that I can run during the daylight, use for those dusty situations, even use at night. So I think I'll add a little bit more. I definitely need to get an amber setup or at least a cover of what I've got. But as a whole, it's pretty impressive. It's a low amperage draw, works well. I think it worked well on most all night rides. Maybe just nice to have a little bit more in the dunes. So on top of all the CT front end stuff, I decided while I was there to go ahead and replace the lower A-arms. I've heard some issues with the stock stuff, how it can bend or break easily. So since we're ripping it all apart, I went ahead and went with CT. They have a couple designs. They have the tubular and the boxed. The tubular's lighter. Dave Brunson over there at CT recommended the tubes for what we do out here. It's lighter weight. It's just as tough for the desert. It's the way to go. So we went ahead and did that. So now I've got the peace of mind knowing that we've kind of really addressed all the problem issues with the front end. And speaking of suspension, the rear end, while we had it apart, we wanted to go ahead and powder coat some of these items and get as much of this Can-Am reddish orange off as we could. So we decided to take the trailing arms off, which were that color. And while we're at it, we went ahead and beefed those up. So I had Brent at American Engineering weld up a Gusset kit from S3 Powersports to the stock trailing arms. Now, this kit had a nice fit and finish, went together easily. It was only $110, $120. And before just powder coating them, like I mentioned, why not go ahead and beef them up? So we still have some work to do on the rear end. We did purchase an S3 Powersports rear pull plate, and we will be doing some upgraded radius rods in the future just to get the rear end all sorted out. We'll talk about more of that in the future in our video. But for now, like I said, we're getting this thing slowly to a more neutral color, so it's gonna look really good with the Chupacabra wrap and our design on it once we get to the final product. So making some progress, and we have one more thing to show you guys on the interior that we've changed so far. So final upgrade we've made so far, and it's much needed, and that's on the interior, and that's a new PCI Elite radio. Now, I've heard about the tracks, I've heard it's good. A lot of my helmets, everything's all wired for the Elite setup, so I decided to stick with what I know. We went ahead and used PCI's clean dash install kit, which has room for some extra switches. And you know, everyone I ride with, they've all got radios. It's been difficult to even do any type of off-roading, shooting out in Glamis without having a radio setup. So we finally got that going. Also with the rear, we went ahead and used a new product you guys will see soon, and this is a new antenna mount kit. Now, this uses our proprietary clamp system. The beauty of getting our clamp system sorted and having it modular is that now we've got a lot of accessories you guys are gonna see in the future that are easy to mount up. So this is a prototype, we're double checking, testing it out, but the beauty of this is it rotates every 90 degrees, so you have some options based on where you're gonna mount it, so you can get your antenna to mount right up. So clean setup for all of you guys that are mounting a radio that aren't gonna go with a custom cage. You can move it around. We've got the 4 popular sizes of tube diameter with more to come, so nice solution. Look more for this. We'll talk more about some of these other clamp accessories we've got coming that we're testing now that we'll be launching over the next couple months. So that's all the upgrades for today. We're gonna take it out, we're gonna put some miles on it, we're gonna let you know how it works, see if we add some noticeable changes in the front end like I mentioned, get you some more feedback in terms of adjusting the suspension, how we like it with these tires, you know, all these type of things. But really enjoying the vehicle. Got more on the way. You're gonna see some of these other parts that we're not just gonna slap on, but we're gonna have a hand in helping design, just to kind of give it some more of our own Chupacabra flavor, get it set up for the type of rides that you guys know us well for doing, whether that's quick day rides out in the dunes, long adventure rides, things of that nature. The goal before we bought this thing was to have a 2-seat Can-Am that we could use for long adventure rides. So also keep it lightweight, keep it stylish, keep our style simple and clean. You know, windshield, that type of thing we can use in all environments. So stay tuned for more, guys. I hope you guys like the content. If you do, go ahead, like and subscribe, and we've got a lot more coming your way.